Hey.
What? Do you think I don't know what you're doing? I know you better than you know yourself.
What am I doing? You tell me. Come on. Come on.
You using grace to punish me for Faith's death. But it is not my fault.
I don't think it's your fault.
Oh, yes, you do. And you just need to go on and at least admit it.
I think it's our fault.
You should go.
Thanks, everybody. Lynn, thanks so much for being here. You look amazing. You look incredible.
Oh, thank you so much.
Of course. It's a pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations on this show. As I was telling you in the green room, I really think a true original, the first of its kind. I don't think we've ever seen a show like this.
I agree with you. When I read the script, when I saw the subject matter that we're actually dealing with, family, our family scripted drama that centers around the church, coming up with questions of faith and forgiveness and working through it all as a family, I was very excited about it because the thing about our show is that well, I'll let you ask some of those questions, but it's just wonderful that we're looking at the people behind the congregation, behind the institution, not actually so much at the institution itself of a church.
Well, and also what happens to an institution or a faith or what happens to a faith when it becomes an institution, when it becomes a form of capitalism in many ways. This is a mega church, and
Yes,
this
it
isn't like
is.
a home sort of corner store church on a New York City street or something. This is a mega church. It's a business.
That's the thing. When you start something for all the right reasons, you start a church because you want to save souls, and it becomes bigger and bigger and a big business, and you own things, and the stakes become higher. And sometimes, as this family has, your sense of value, what's important, your priorities change, and you end up wanting to hold on to what you've built. And that's what we're dealing with. And it's not based on any one mega church at all, nothing like that. But if you look anywhere, when leadership, you have absolute power. I mean, it's not a part of any other church. It's not, Methodist or Baptist. It's just a religious church. So they don't answer to anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's also the element of this show that it's not just a mega church, it's an African-American community church. It's a church within the African-American community.
Yes, it is.
So you get to see, I think, how faith plays out within the African-American community, how these churches work within the community. And that's not something that's ever really talked about on television.
Well, no,
because African-American stories aren't told as much as they should be on TV, unfortunately.
Well, of course. So everything ends up being a first, but ours is really special. It's sad, isn't it?
Like, as I was saying,
what happens, but thank God, this is extraordinary, and it really is, well done. If you look from early on in the history of America and the people of African descent being in America, it's the center of many things was their belief system, was their church. It was where they got together to share ideas. It's where Martin Luther King came from. Churches have been very important to our community, a place that we can all gather. So this new movement of mega churchdom that is going on now, where it becomes a business, catapults families into and the people who are really involved, who started them, into, almost like being the president and first lady of their own universe, which we're not criticizing at all, but we do beg to take a look at the question, what happens when people are in absolute control and power of their own existence, their own kingdom, if you will, and what happens? And people just lose their way. It is possible to completely lose track of why you started this. When what you were really supposed to do was to be saving souls and shepherding people, into a belief system that gave them comfort. It becomes, let me not lose all of this that we've gained. And
Lose the power, but also lose the material things that saving souls
exactly. You
bought
lose
you.
the material things. You know, there's a scene where Lady May, you know, in the, I think it's the first episode, and Bishop says, oh, that happened a long time ago, you know, back when we were still flying commercial. And Lady May says, never again. Thank you, Jesus. Never again. No, Lord, no. And, you know, you can just lose sight of things. It's easy to do. And that's what we're looking at here, along with other things that just go on in any family.
Yeah.
For the most part, you know, the dysfunction of a family, you know, how we deal with themes that I think are so very important to every human being, like the ability to forgive. Can you find it in your heart to forgive? Because, you know, we don't just forgive for ourselves, for other people, we forgive for ourselves, so we're not holding that. So there's problems of forgiveness, of inappropriate sexual behavior within
Well, that's what I think is
family.
interesting when you're talking about forgiveness, is because it's like, what should you forgive and what shouldn't you forgive? And the idea, I think, for your character really, is she's willing to forgive the thing that doesn't look bad for them, but isn't willing to forgive the thing that looks bad for them.
No. She's not that she's willing to forgive what looks bad for the.
Shuffle it under the rug.
She's not willing to know about it.
Right.
So we get into other things that so often happen in many families, and a lot in African American families, and that it's that thing of denial. I'm putting on blinders. I'm not going to look at the fact that, you know, maybe this family member may be gay. I'm not going to look at the fact that maybe somebody was touching somebody in the wrong. It's like I do not allow that to enter my consciousness. I don't believe it. It's not happening. So it's nothing to forgive. You just simply don't even let it get that far.
I
and
gotta
that's
say-
so dangerous. And so many families have these issues going on, though.
Yeah, I gotta say, as a white man, it's not just black families that have that issue.
Well, I
going
was about to
on.
say, you know, we are, and I think the reason that the show has been, you know, the second most successful cable series this season in 2016, yes! We're so excited, and Oprah is so excited. This was a dream of hers to explore, you know, belief systems and these kinds of families, you know?
That's not even something that we've talked about yet. Oprah is a producer and in the show, and she is Oprah. She's the best every time she's on screen. Every time she's on screen, I'm like, Oprah!
She is Oprah. She's the best, and this woman has a work ethic like I've never seen in my life.
She runs an empire.
And she runs an empire, and she works hard, so hard, and she never, this is just from looking from the outside, it's never that, you know, I've done enough and it doesn't have to be any better than that. That's it, and that's as good as it gets. No. That was great, and I can do better, and I want to do more. And she wanted to tell this story, exploring this church family and really make it the best. And we're doing really, really well at it. What I was about to say to you was that no, what we're exploring doesn't only exist in African American families. You see it in Jewish families, Greek families, Irish families, you know, on and on and on. And I think that's why it's had this crossover appeal. It's because people see their own families in it. It's universal, yet it is specifically coming through the channel of an African American sensibility, a sensibility of people who say, yes, we have a mansion, we have an estate, we have a family compound, we have servants who serve dinner, we eat dinner with crystal and china. I mean, they've gotten to all of that, but they're comfortable with it. It's not full of, you know, like a kind of showy, crass showiness. It just is that it is, right? And within all of that, we have all of these family challenges that that I know I can relate from my family, and it seems like many people can. So it's a good thing, and hopefully, in my heart, it can help to bring healing to some who see and say, you know, I'm really not by myself. There are people who go through this, and we have yet another season. It's been picked up for another season that yes, so exciting. that we will get to explore the journey. Part of my work as the artist is to mirror life, you know, and to mirror it and to put it out there and channel it through real, truthful performance, finding that place in the challenge. And through it, I always pray that people will either see, you know, well, yes, that's something I can learn from and gain in my own life, or that's something absolutely I never want to do in my life. I can learn from what not to do. Seeing the mistakes, seeing the pain of it, seeing how much it costs, the consequence. And so we hope in this season and next that we'll, you know, be making journeys that may help to bring some healing and understanding and self-examination to our audiences.
And now, the creator of the show, Craig Wright, is
Yes.
one of the sort of head writers of 6 Feet Under
Yes.
back in the day. He also created a number of other shows that have been on Dirty Sexy Money and a few other shows. He is formerly a priest, and he is a white guy.
Yes.
And he's writing for all of you. Do you guys, I mean, I talked to the cast of Survivor's Remorse just the other day, whose creator is Mike O'Malley, a white guy, and they talk about how they work with him, and he asks questions all the time because he's not always like as comfortable as he could possibly be telling their story.
And that's so great. Craig has been extremely collaborative in that way. He said, I'm here not necessarily for all that I know, but I'm here for what I don't know that I need to get from you. And feel free to call. So I want you to know I was on that phone. Craig, just in case you don't know, you know, a first lady in an African-American church has a church in the office, okay? No, she does not just have a home office. She's involved in everything. She is the gatekeeper. You don't understand. This is her universe. So I had to really, you know, explain to them, but because they were relegating, you know, in the beginning, thought that Lady May was just involved in like, what are we, you know, what are we having for dinner and protecting the home. I said, no, no, no. The first ladies are the gatekeepers of the church, and they have to have a prominent role. And he was extremely collaborative with it. So was Oprah, and so was Clement Virgo, who was just, you know, nominated for Peabody for Book of Negro. He directed 4 of these episodes and sort of set the tone. He found this great location of the house, which the house, the mansion, the estate is like a character in this because it sets forth right away what they don't want to lose. This is a huge character that everyone is vying to, you know, to hold on to. And the collaboration of it all, of who these people are, how they would react, what they would insinuate into the story based upon the character-driven nature of what they want, of what the obstacle is, very specific, and the team has been extremely collaborative to take notes and to build it with us.
Does it feel, how does it feel to sort of be a part of a show right now that is specifically, I think it's a universal show, but it is specifically about an African-American experience in the midst of being at what feels like a sort of cultural crossroads, especially in the past few weeks, a divisive couple of weeks. I think it feels like entertainment in many ways is moving the needle forward, while sort of across the country we still have some people who are just a little afraid of how that needle is moving and are trying to hold it down a bit.
Well, that is a jam-packed question.
Do you want me to, I can step off and let you take over.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's a really, because we're talking about 2 different things. We're talking about storytelling, which is very important, which mirrors life. But we're also talking about life and what is happening in our country. You know, so what's happening on the little screen and what is happening on the big stage of America and the world, for that matter, with Brexit and everything. It's like, okay, there are definitely some shifts going on. So yes, hopefully we can give people comfort. There was one episode where we talked about, you know, police brutality and questions of whether or not a policeman was guilty of inappropriate behavior and also thereby murder. But what is happening in the world for me right now is extremely important because I am from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My daughter was at that protest on Sunday. it's scary because, it comes closer and closer, and now this is like around the corner from my mom's house. And so that area of like, where do you stand? And where I stand, I think, in what is happening on the world stage is Black people helped to build this country. We are not disposable. We will never be dismissed. The very White House in Washington, D.C., was built, with the hands of African Americans. So we're not going anywhere, and we need law and order in the country. So policing and African American people existing and Black men are not going anywhere. I know historically, back from slavery, when they had these big specimens on it's been threatening and intimidating, perhaps, the presence of just a Black man. Like, what are you? Are you like as sexual as they say and all of that? There's all these things of it.
The minority has always been sort of socially presented as a threat for some reason, because whites are so scared of the ownership that they have of property. Going back to slaves, they're going to quote unquote rise up.
Well, it is, again, it's
people in
proprietary. This is mine and I want to keep it, but that's not what the Constitution says. So what I'm really praying is that we, as a people, understand that we are interdependent upon each other, and that African American people aren't going anywhere, and we don't want police to leave, and we want policing in our world. But I think that people aren't comfortable with each other. If you don't know the people in the neighborhood, and you don't know the people policing the neighborhood, if you don't have a conversation, I don't know, a block party, it's something where people get together and know each other and somehow snuff out this fear and mistrust. I don't know how we're going, what is going to happen. It's going to be cyclical, more violence, because violence creates violence. So I think the police need education, because then they would have known that that man was okay, that he was selling CDs in front of the guy's store, because the guy said he always sells. It's like a neighborhood thing.
They're friends.
Yeah, they were friends, and I spoke to Mr. Sterling's aunt, Sandra Sterling. She says it's like an out-of-body experience. It's just so much coming at her at one time, and I'll wait and check on her after the funeral. But it's a dilemma that is an American dilemma. And the community is not just a Black community, it's the American community. It's the community of all of Baton Rouge. It's the community of all of St. Paul. So we're not going to be able to run away from it and, go, in my day they used to just punch somebody in the face when that happened. That's not going to work for us. That's not going to heal anything. So we have a dilemma of how we're going to bring our country back together, not divide it further. So my thing is, like, let's have fairness for everybody, because policing is not easy. I wouldn't have the nerve to go out there every day, and I understand that. But I have to have the nerve to have, Black nephews and be a Black person. I gotta have the nerve. I gotta walk out on the street. It's not something that I can rip off or change my mind about. That's what I am, So we just really all have to get together, and anger and fear just is not going to fix it, and prejudice. So I think, honestly, I was saying yesterday, I think that people need to be vetted for these positions more clearly, If a jury is going to be vetted by a prosecuting and defending attorney, after they've been arrested and after, and all of that, and after to be sure that they don't have any prejudice, that they don't have any sway, that any prior knowledge that would make them prejudiced to the case. I really think that law enforcement agents need to be vetted more thoroughly and psychologically and emotionally to see who they are, if they're really built for fairness in all communities.
I agree with you 100%. Briefly.
And that's before, so that's before it gets to arrest, charging, You know what I mean? Before you can't be the judge, the jury, and the executioner all in 1.5 minutes. All the time. You got to have somebody wise to do that. A wise, solid person who can measure all of that. I'm not made of the stuff that could do it, but there are people in the world who are, and most of them must be, or we'd have this happening every day somewhere, right?
Absolutely. I want to go back to one thing that you just said, which is the phrase, black bodies are not disposable. And I think that's so important.
Black people are not disposable.
Black people are not disposable. And I think that's so important to say, because so often, and I was watching the news just this morning, and they were talking about protesting, and they were talking about cops. And every time they brought up police officers, they said, but 9 out of 10 police officers are not violent. 9 out of 10 aren't violent. But every time they talked about protesters, Black Lives Matter protesters, they would say, I hope they keep the peace. As if 9 out of 10 protesters are violent when they're actually not. And it's this
and they're
situation
actually
where,
not. And I really respect that Black Lives Matter, made a statement and have begun. But we've been protesting since long before. When Martin Luther King was protesting, they were going up to the Appalachian Mountains or wherever they were and going through training to know how to do it properly. I mean, protest is not only a function of Black Lives Matter. There were many community people out there protesting in Baton Rouge. That woman whose property people were on, that she'd given permission for them to be there, she was just supporting the cause of what was going on in the community. So no, all protesters are not, most of them aren't. They're just trying to affect change. My daughter was there.
But I think it's interesting the way that the conversation is approached in the media.
Well, for sure.
I think people are very scared of actually talking about the root and the systemic problems that everybody is trying to talk about. And that's where this 9 out of 10 cops are peaceful, but protesters, hopefully they're peaceful.
Well, that's it. I mean, and
great fear of discussing the root.
The civil disobedience is like cool.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing. Civil
We should be holding cops accountable.
We should be holding cops accountable. We should be holding the people who have bad water in Michigan accountable. People need to be held accountable. It's called customer service, doggone it. You know what I mean?
For some reason, it seems like
you've got to say. You have to be able to say, I'm not happy with the job that you're doing. This is not what I signed up for. This is not, it's part of our country.
Absolutely.
That we are able to say that. And so everybody now wants to put everything in the basket of the movement of Black Lives Matter, but people have been protesting, and it's kind of, taking off bras and panties, saying women's lib, and, it was this and that, and it was, the Woodstock. We've always protested. Black Lives Matter is specifically addressing how they think they should address the killing of Black people by police in this country.
Absolutely.
And for that matter, police could protest. As that police chief said in Dallas, listen, everything that doesn't go right, you kind of put it in the hands of the police. Police, you close all the mental institutions, and the funding for mental institutions. So there are people walking around New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New Orleans, everywhere, who, are not completely mentally and emotionally solid, who should have a place to be where they could get some healing. You close those because of funding, and then that's the police's problem.
Yeah, the only people taking care of the mentally ill in this country are people with guns, which is crazy.
And it's not fair. Yeah. So the police, when he stood up yesterday and said, we get everything, we get all of it, and we're dealing with things that we should not be dealing with. His voice was heard, and the president echoed it yesterday in his speech.
How great of a job the Dallas police chief has been doing
has been doing such a marvelous job. And then when I heard some of his, and so balanced and so measured and so compassionate and so fair.
I hope he's planning some kind of run for office.
Don't do that to him. Let him stay having a voice that he don't do that to him. Oh my God.
I think I got to turn it over to the audience for questions. First question?
Did we talk? Oh yes. Well, you'll get back to Greenleaf. My God, because I have no right. You know, celebrities who sit down and try to talk politics. I am not assuming that I have any knowledge. I'm just speaking as a citizen.
I think you did a wonderful job.
You know, just a citizen of what I believe or what I'm thinking about anyway. So questions.
So the movie, the Thin Line Between Love and Hate. How difficult was it for you playing that crazy role? Like, did you have any second thoughts of playing that?
Thin line between love and hate.
Yeah.
Playing that
Did
role.
I have any second thoughts of getting to play?
Playing that role.
Well, you know they say hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Why would I have any trepidation about putting it out there for the sisters? So when I put talking about gun violence, you know what? But when I put the barrel of the gun down Martin Lawrence, he said, "Do it, just go for it." I knew that I was making a statement, you know. It is really hard for people when you say, "I love you," and you don't mean it. Betrayal is painful for a man, for a woman, for a child. It's a bad thing. It was glorious to be able to be that insane and not get arrested for it. It was.
I think I have time for one more question. Let's make it about Greenleaf, because I certainly took us off track on that
You
one.
did, and we need people to know more about our show.
Hi. So I've been following your career since I was a small child, watching you as I grow up through TV.
And you're
movie.
12.
But like one of my favorite shows that you actually have done, which I think was a miniseries, was actually Women of Brewster's Place. And you actually got to work with Oprah on that show, and it hits a lot of the same themes in the Black community as I think Greenleaf does. So I was wondering if there were any similarities or similar ways of attacking the show's subject matter as it was back then.
Way to tie it back to Greenleaf. I was worried for a minute. I'm very happy with that.
Well, it's an ensemble piece, which means you get to look at challenges from different directions. Women of Brewster Place was like that as well. What was so great about Oprah and I working together this time, and we only have, one big explosive scene that you just can't wait for in episode 13. Oh my God, it's serious. But it is. But what happened was that we were very comfortable when it came to shooting that scene because of the intimate work that we had done in the Women of Brewster Place, and the death of a child and all of that. So we had done such good work together. So when it came to the scene that we had to do in Greenleaf, it was great. So we read it through in rehearsal, and it was so juicy and so explosive. We did a happy dance all over the set, like, oh my God, we're gonna do this. This is gonna be, we know it's just gonna be the tea. It's gonna be everything. And we were so excited. So yes, again, tying back to the fact that Greenleaf is actually looking at a lot of challenges that many families have. And the dilemma between the Mavis character, which Oprah plays, and Lady May, which I play, is sibling rivalry, unforgiveness from decades ago that they never have worked out. And hopefully this is going to be very successful and run for seasons, and you'll see them work through it while both of them are still on earth, which we all hope as family members, that we don't leave this earth with, family things undone and unfinished, with pains and hurts and unforgiveness still there. So, I'm very happy and proud that this show, Greenleaf, is taking a look at African American people in a way that is universal, that has never been seen on television.
It's also a good show. Congratulations.
It's such a good show. Yeah. You have to watch some more, because I tell you, more. Lady May just starts coming forward with her agenda. Oh, yes, honey, she's not gonna.
Lynn, thank you so much. Greenleaf, how can people see Greenleaf?
Oh, well, you can see Greenleaf on OWN, 9 Central Standard Time and Eastern Standard Time at 10 o'clock on Wednesdays. Every week they replay episodes. You can catch up on what you missed and not have any questions about it, or you can download it on the own app. And I think it's on demand. We were the #1 demanded, I believe, #1 or #2, something up there that had a number.
Something great. Lynn Whitfield, thank you so much for being here.